10 misunderstood Disney villains who aren't really evil. Although they're portrayed as pure evil, these Disney baddies may have had sympathetic motives for their wicked deeds. Sure, everyone loves to follow the hero's journey, but has anyone ever stopped to ask about the supposed bad guy's backstory? Welcome to Info Junkie TV. Today, we're counting down the top 10 Disney villains who really are just misunderstood. Life is not always so black and white, not even in animated movies. The best antagonists are often remembered for being totally evil and malicious. While some villains fall under this category for sure, others might have actually been right all along. Rewatching these dazzling Disney movies as adults, we came to realize that we might have judged Maleficent, Ursula, or even Captain Hook a little too quickly. So, grab your popcorn and let's take a look at these not-so-bad Disney villains. But before we begin, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell to get notified about our amazing new videos. Number 10. Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Our first pick is none other than the infamous Maleficent. Sure, she's dark and edgy, but that doesn't mean she's evil. Let's be real, if the whole kingdom was invited to the prince's birthday party except for you, wouldn't you feel just a little salty too? Maleficent is acting out because she hasn't been invited to a cool party. A classic case of FOMO. Who hasn't been there? She did overreact though, sending Aurora to sleep and casting a curse on the entire land. However, all of that could have been prevented had the king and queen invited everyone without judgment. Or they could have just made it a low-key party and not seemingly invite everyone but her. And besides, at least now we know that Prince Philip's truly loved Aurora. Although Maleficent is highly misunderstood in the cartoons, the live-action films show her softer side and tragic backstory. Number 9. Shere Khan from the Jungle Book. This big cat's intense grudge against Mowgli seems to be a bit crazy, but we can't deny his logic. While it's hard to overlook the fact that he tried to murder a child, he's just obeying the law of the jungle. After all, Shere Khan is a tiger. His motives are actually pretty clear. He's seeking to destroy the man cub because he knows that all men do is tear things down and destroy the ecosystem, which Mowgli nearly does by the third act. Shere Khan is simply trying to preserve his home, and he's got a solid point there, we must admit. Maybe his methods are a bit off, rendering him a popular villain. All he needs to do is some reevaluation of his approach, and he could easily pass as a concerned defender of the jungle. Number 8. Edgar from the Aristocats. After decades of faithful service as a butler, Edgar finds out his mistress has left her entire fortune to her cats. And poor guy. It must have been a shock. Edgar isn't really a bad guy, he's just been badly screwed over. Madame Bonfamille could have at least left Edgar something, anything. What are Duchess and the kittens gonna do with a mansion and an outrageous fortune like that one anyways? It's certainly hard to sympathize with someone who mistreats animals, and Edgar did go about things in a rather wrong way, but who could blame him for losing his mind a little? His frustration was understandable. However, his anger was seriously foolish and misplaced. After all, the cats never asked Madame to leave them all of her fortunes. Number 7. Captain Hook from Peter Pan. Captain Hook is portrayed as the evil pirate captain, whose main goal is to destroy Peter Pan. Such an irritating character, right? Well, let's take a look at the captain's backstory, shall we? While Peter Pan takes great pleasure in tormenting Captain Hook in every possible way, this isn't even the worst thing the boy who wouldn't grow up has done. Actually, Peter Pan was the reason Hook lost his hand. He even fed it to Tick-Tock the Croc, as Hook stood and watched his hand get chomped by the crocodile. It's one thing to sever an opponent in the heat of battle, but to feed his hand to a crocodile? That's downright vicious. Who sounds like the villain in that story? So, Captain Hook's rivalry with Peter isn't out of pure spite. Being driven by anger kind of makes sense in Hook's case. I mean, can you blame him? Number 6. Ursula from the Little Mermaid. Ursula is definitely tricky, but she's not that tricky. I mean, she never lied to Ariel. In fact, Ursula drew out an entire contract that Ariel could have inspected before agreeing to the deal. Let's backtrack a little. After 16-year-old Ariel fell in love with a human that she'd only interacted with for less than an hour, she actively chose to seek Ursula, the well-known sea witch, for help on her own accord. While Ursula's minion eels did some persuasion, Ariel was the one who agreed to trade in her voice for human legs and turned her back on her father and life at sea. You can't really blame Ursula for presenting her with options. Ursula never forced Ariel to sign her name on the dotted lines. Ariel did that willingly. A life lesson to take from here: always read the terms and conditions. Number 5. Hades from Hercules. Just because Hades is cast out by his family and spends most of his time in the underworld, it doesn't mean he's evil. He was just unlucky and misunderstood. Hades and his brother Zeus took sibling rivalry to a whole other level that ended up with Hades banished to the underworld. Imagine how Hades feels all alone and secluded while his family is living together in paradise on Olympus. However, we're not condoning his behavior of kidnapping and trying to murder a baby in a petty attempt to overthrow Zeus and take over Mount Olympus. His plot is driven by the fact that he's constantly hanging out with dead people. So again, can you really blame him? All he ever really wanted was to get his place back on Olympus. You can think of it as a feminine ancient Greek method of finding a new job when you know you're never getting promoted. Number 4. Syndrome from The Incredibles. For a bulk of his youth, Syndrome wanted nothing but to fight crime. So, when the disappointment and rejection came from his all-time favorite hero, the pain was stinging. Although we can't blame someone for another's mistakes, Mr. Incredible's patronizing behavior against Syndrome didn't help matters at all. Mr. Incredible was biased to the elitist mentality of superheroes, while he could have easily contained that child fan who obviously needed some guidance. Syndrome sorta had the right idea by wanting to make everyone super. He was just seeking justice for ordinary folks. He just pushed in the wrong direction while using his intelligence. However, we're not in denial of the bad things he did. All we're saying is that the little guy isn't necessarily a rotten human. We can agree that his motivations and intentions are sympathetic. Number 3. Anton Ego from Ratatouille. From the start of the film, Anton Ego has a bad rap as the brutal critic who's hard to please. While this might sound pretty villainous and scary to a chef or a restaurant owner, Ego isn't really harming anyone. Why does being a firm food critic label him as evil? He's just doing his job. And his job happens to be reviewing something that he thoroughly enjoys. Anton Ego doesn't just like food, he loves it. And we can't help but love him. If anything, he's kinda relatable. He's even given a name that alludes to vanity and arrogance. But deep down, he actually had a soft side which ended up costing him his job and credibility because he praised a restaurant full of rats. In conclusion, Ego is an example of an antagonist that goes through reformation instead of getting destroyed like most Disney villains. If you like this video so far, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell to get notified about our new incredible content. You have the option to get notified about occasional videos or all of them. Number 2. Captain Gantu from Lilo and Stitch. After reconsidering the evidence, we're not sure if Captain Gantu even qualifies as a villain. He never had a vindictive plot when he embarked on a journey to recapture Stitch. He was simply following orders of the Galactic Grand Council. We can't call him a villain for doing his job. He just had a mission and wanted to succeed. Is that so bad? After all, unstable alien experiments are serious business. When an experiment possessing a high level of intelligence and a tendency for violence, like Experiment 626, is on the loose, many planets are endangered, including Earth. When Captain Gantu is tasked with exterminating Stitch, he finds Lilo in his way, refusing to let her pet go. Of course, we love Stitch, but if this were any other sci-fi movie, Captain Gantu would be celebrated as a hero and possible protector of the galaxy. And that brings us to number 1, Isma from The Emperor's New Groove. Our top pick is the remarkably over-the-top Isma. Who could forget about her? Isma was the Emperor's disgruntled advisor. She spent her life bringing up Kuzco, then watched him crash in a job he didn't earn, only to find herself fired when he was looking for a location for Kuzcotopia. Isma may be hungry for power, but getting fired after years of loyal service isn't fair either. She has made this list simply because her time spent as ruler didn't seem worse than Kuzco. Well, he did throw a man out of the window for throwing off his groove. Isma even treated her staff a little better. That's until she was trashing Kronk's cooking, of course. Did ambition get the best of her? Certainly. But was her tyranny worse than Kuzco's heartless neglect? That's debatable. Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching Info Junkie TV. Did you agree with our picks, Infomaniacs? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos and super cool topics. And don't forget to ring the notifications bell to get notified about our latest videos. Thanks for watching Info Junkie TV, and we'll see you next time.